All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome my special guest from Northern Colorado, tight end Charlie Garrison. Man, how's it going?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing so well, man. For those people who are not familiar, man, tell them who you are, man.
Man, my name is Charlie Garrison. I played football here at University of Northern Colorado. Just finished up my last year, and thankfully it went well. And now I'm in pursuit to a professional career. So,
Yeah, that's a good way to go with it, man. I mean, what got you into football, man?
man, football for me started back when I was really young, about 5 years old, and I grew up in a house where you know my dad was very big on sports and he saw it as an avenue to sharpen us up and you know give us those key characteristics to life back when we were young, just in terms of knowing how to lose and knowing how to win, and just trying to have us step out of our comfort zone early in our lives. And um, so he was very hard on us to be good, not just to have fun. And I think that ingrained competitive nature in me, and the desire to be great at football when I'm playing and not just to have fun with it. So that's where it pretty much started for me.
So it started at 5 years old, so early age. I mean, I guess for some kids they get it at an early age with their parents, huh?
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah,
Some of them get influenced by their friends or their big siblings.
right. Yeah, you see a lot of people like when they're in high school stuff. People who are always athletic and stuff, and everyone's saying, "Hey, you should try playing football, man. You'd be good." And they're like, "Yeah, why don't I give it a shot?" And you see a lot of those guys who end up really being incredible
Yeah.
athletes, incredible players. So everyone's different with it.
Hey, but it stuck with you since 5 years old, so it's something that you took seriously.
100%.
So, so like, so what were the high school offers like for you?
So high school, I actually had no offers. I had some interest from this D2, but I went to high school at Tappan Zee High School and was not known for their football. I don't know. I think there was one dude who played D1 football prior to. I think it was one dude, yeah, and he played back in the day. Like I think it might have been. I don't know what year, but um, you know, I wasn't able to go D1 at a high school just because of, I think part of it was maybe competition, and part of it was just that we were not a football school. And um, the ways of recruiting back in 2019, it was a little more tough with that. And I also wasn't the same person I am now, and I didn't really take my recruiting as serious as I could have, just from not being wise and not knowing what I wanted to do with myself at the time. And I found myself taking the JUCO path, and that's where it really took off from JUCO. I would say more so, way more so than anything that happened at high school. It was the JUCO days that was the
Yeah,
foundation.
the JUCO route is kind of like the most humble experience because you got to pay on your own and
Yep.
you got to find a way to make the roster.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's another part is like depending on where you come up from, a lot of times it's not the most socially accepted route, and people, they'll doubt it and they'll look at it as, oh, he's still doing the football thing. And but that's where um, you really have to stand firm in the belief, because you have to have something that's greater than that, that's driving you, being able to take the criticism and the scrutiny and just um, not letting that affect your journey and your path. And that's something that I did, and it started just from the belief that I had more in me and was capable of being a really good football player. So
Yeah, and then it led you to Northern Colorado eventually. So things just have a plan, like they
yeah,
say.
Yep.
Sometimes don't take it. Sometimes it's not the negative way. Sometimes the offers is what it is. But like you said, you had to go through a different recruiting time. So it
Yep.
was during the COVID year, I'm assuming, which was a lot difficult then.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So it was actually, yeah, my first year of college was the year before COVID. And, that was tough because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like 175 pounds. I just had this kind of this raw ability and didn't really, like I said, in football, in high school, football wasn't as serious as it is now. And, I was a basketball player too. And I was just caught up in, high school things, so, um, you know, that first year was tough because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then the second year, my season got canceled because of COVID too. So now I was 2 years into college and didn't play a single snap of college football. So that took a lot of growth and a lot of learning and just realizing a lot of stuff in that time, where I was at and taking those emotions and those realizations and, you know, starting to develop a belief to me and a plan, during those times and a routine, starting to sharpen up a little bit. And, so that helped me go into 2021, my first year at JUCO with a little momentum, so I had those 2 years off and I was ready to go in there and prove myself and come back to football. And, I kind of, it meshed really well because I had a chip on my shoulder just from having to wait that long and, being this kid who's at community college and not playing football, but is supposed to be playing football. And, it drove me a lot. And then, I was willing to learn. I was willing to work in JUCO and I had a good season. So,
Yeah, like you were out of the game for 2 years. It was challenging, and usually for those guys who come out of high school, they have to add a little bit of playing weight or something. So
yep.
you said you were about 175 coming out of high school. So
Yeah.
you're currently listed at 255, if I'm mistaken, right? Or is that
Yeah.
inaccurate?
Right now, yeah, it's about 253 ish, 252 to 250.
So
So
you
I was
had to
able to,
gain, you had to put in the right nutritions and all the other stuff into it, huh?
yeah. It was a long path to put on the weight. Took a lot of just being routined and developing those habits and getting in big time on the nutrition and doing the studying and learning all that stuff. And, that just stems from the plan and the path. You believe in yourself and everything you do will cater to that belief. So if that takes a dude who never liked studying in school, like to go online and start looking into nutrition and stuff like that. And, that's what it did. So, it's just everything caters towards the belief and you start doing things and becoming a person that you never really thought you would be. So that's similar to what happened to me.
Yeah, and you had to figure out what you wanted to do anyways. Like you said, you weren't fully sure because you said you did basketball and all the other stuff. So
Yep.
after working hard at JUCO, going to Northern Colorado, what was the atmosphere going over there for?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was a big transition for me. And for anybody, but that's the willingness to step into the fire and step into that out of that comfort zone and um, coming across the country. Um, Thankfully, I had my brother coming out here with me, and credit to him as well. I wouldn't have been able to get to Northern Colorado without him and without my family helping me and supporting me. My mom and dad, they were my rocks. They were helping me financially, helping me with advice and stuff like that. And my little brother was always just a solid, positive energy in my life. And, so when I look at it in whole and um, it was really, a bunch of things that helped me get to that place. And a lot of it was not me. And, I could say that with confidence and, it doesn't discredit me. But what it did do when I got there to Northern Colorado, I was extremely thankful for the opportunity, but it gave me a chip on my shoulder to continue to grow and progress because, you know, I still felt like I had to deserve it and I had to earn it and go get it and prove myself at this level. And that I'm not just here because of my brother and, that's the only thing. But even though maybe I was, I wanted to prove it to myself and everybody that I belonged. And it was a long ride to get to that spot, to make that improvement. I started out my first year, came into camp kind of late, and I was a scout guard that whole season. So I was actually playing on scout and I was playing guard, and that is just a testament to from what it took from down here and just climbing and growing and looking in the mirror. So I progressed, and you know I got a fresh start going into the spring and new coaching staff and stuff like that, and I had a full spring to prove and to learn and grow. And um, that next fall, I came in and I was still low on the depth chart. I was the fifth guy. I was the last guy, and I actually wasn't traveling week one. And they brought four tight ends, and that's when I really said to myself, I gotta look in, and I gotta take this and figure out what I could do differently, and what are the things that I could do better instead of just blaming the coaches and saying coach has it out for me or he plays favorites, and instead just looking in the mirror and saying what could I do differently. And you know I made those changes. I added a few pounds. I got in the playbook. I studied. I grew as a player and as a person that year. A lot of it was my football IQ and that sort of stuff. And then some people went down that year. Our starter went down, and another kid went down with season-ending injuries. And before you knew it, I was in the three deep, and I got moved over to the travel squad, and I ended up actually starting our last three games of that season. And that was kind of where it took off from there. And I used that momentum and carried it over into the next year, and then into the next year, and my role steadily improved, and I became a more known figure on the team, um, and it all came full circle, and my trajectory just continued to go in a positive way, and started with the humility to blame myself and accountability.
Yeah, you started off below the depth chart, so that's a
Yeah,
challenging spot because most people under your circumstances, they probably would have just either quit or
right.
just kept going with like the way you're doing it. So it's like, man, that's amazing, bro, because some people would have just not stuck around with it.
Yeah, man, and that's the biggest thing that it's all about the belief. The belief in your heart and in your soul that whatever it is that's you're being tested with is meant to happen for a reason, and it's supposed to sharpen you and forge you into a different person. So you look at the setbacks and the hardship, and you use it as a time to grow, and you sit in it, and you don't reject it, you don't run from it, and you really look in the mirror, and you use those setbacks to create something good from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you can either build from this and
Yep.
try to get better. Like you said, don't put the blame on the coaches. You got to
Right.
prove it to them or something.
Yep.
And you were coming out of JUCO, so there was different circumstances. You were doing scouting for the guard, so that had to be a little bit of a different type of thing. And maybe they started seeing you more as a tight end, and that's what got you there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I was even at one point I was almost going to switch to outside linebacker that first year, but um, I didn't because I always knew deep down that part of me was like I just want to play right now. So I was like maybe I'll go and switch positions, and then I rethought about it, and I was like, don't try to rush this. You're here. You're gonna have to be here for a little. You're gonna have to put in the time, and you're gonna have to grow the right way. So that's kind of what I did. I didn't jump ship and move positions because I believed in myself at tight end, and I knew I could do it. I just needed, you know,
Yeah,
a
you
new
just need
off
to.
season and some growth and some development, and then here we are. So,
Yeah. So since you've been playing tight end for a couple years, who do you model your game after?
man, who do I model my game after? I always look at obviously the best guys. I look at guys like George Kittle. Um, he's a guy that even in college he was a blocking first tight end. And that's how he started his path. He was primarily used as a blocker, and as his career went on, he made huge strides as a pass catcher, and maybe he was already always a good pass catcher, but I think he had to prove himself as a blocker first, and the receptions came later, and that's similar to my situation here at UNC. It's almost the same thing. My ticket onto the field was being a physical, tough blocker who's strong and willing to put his face in there and do the dirty work for the team. And I kind of adopted that role and I embraced it. And I always had that physicality and that mean side of me on the football field who could play tough and play physical. And that got me a lot of opportunities because it got me on the field more consistently. And thankfully because of that, I was able to end up showing what I could do in the pass game as well. And it all came together that way. But it's usually guys like Kittle and those type of players more than rather than like a guy like Gronk. Like that guy's a freak, and it's not easy to model your game after him because he's huge and he's so fast and big and
Mismatch, yeah.
Yeah, he's a total mismatch. So it would be silly for me to compare myself to him. But
yeah, I can see why you go with George Kittle because of the way in college. I think it's because Iowa wasn't quite much of a passing team. Like
right.
they were more of a run, and that's where he became a good blocker. So I guess on your tape, it's kind of misleading by your production. It's because you were mostly blocking, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and then later on in my career, I went from 15 catches and 200 yards to this year it was 28 catches or 27 catches, 329 and 2 touchdowns. So a lot of more opportunity opened up in the pass game, just as solidifying yourself as an every down tight end. And those are I'm extremely thankful for those opportunities that I got. It was actually you know top two in receiving the Big Sky as a tight end, and so it was a great season. It was an awesome season just to see everything come together like that.
Yeah, you're making strides out of it. So, since this is a question I've always tend to ask those prospects, man, why should they draft you? What stands out about you from the rest of the tight ends? I mean, I get that you are still growing at the position, so there's a lot to like about you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think the biggest thing with me is uh, the work ethic and the humility to be accountable first, and on the characteristic side, the traits, it would be, my size is something that a lot of people put value in, and my physicality at the point of attack, and inline as an inline tight end, and being able to block D ends and stuff like that, and just using my physicality and even in the passing game and stuff. You saw time after time this year on tape, using my body to get big, and then once I catch the ball, that yak ability, people don't take me down because I played running back my whole life, and it's tough to tackle me, and I have that balance, and luckily from God, God gave me that balance and that running vision, and something, yeah, I would say, I have natural hands, and thankfully again. And so, yeah, these are all some things. It's, I would say, my physicality, my willingness to block and hit, and my ability to get yards after the catch in the passing game, and natural ability to kind of make plays in that area.
Yeah, especially when given the opportunity, it's kind of proven that maybe you could be exactly in that projection of what you said about Kittle, because Kittle wasn't getting much of that in college, but I think it can be the same trajectory as you.
Yep. Yes, sir. I hope so.
Oh, we gotta just like the way you're doing it, man. We gotta put the work in, and like
Let it
what kind
fall
of
how it's gonna fall. Let it go how it's supposed to go, and do everything in my control. And this, the biggest thing I've learned in my career. It takes a lot of maturity to be thankful for what you have, but always want to progress and get more. And it's a tough balance to find, and it's something that has to come from a lot of growth and a lot of maturity. So
yeah, especially with all those experience. But what kind of offense did you play coming out of the JUCO and coming out of Northern Colorado? The difference that can translate to the next level.
yeah, the difference between um, the offense at JUCO, it was a very simple offense. I would say that we ran a bunch more spread stuff. Um, I was able to run a little more, run some more routes, and but I would say the biggest difference was that Northern Colorado, we came in as this new staff. We adopted the run game was the core of our offense, and we were run the ball first, and um, inline tight ends and 12 personnel and stuff like that. We wanted to be the biggest, strongest, toughest team, the Big Sky, and that was the building blocks of this program. It was smash mouth football, run the ball, and um, actually, what happened was we started in that, and we didn't have great success with it. We teams would catch on and just load the box and stuff, and then actually this year, you know, um, we started off in a offense. It was more centered around the run game and our fast quarterback going into the year. This kid ran 4.5 speed, so a lot of reads with him and a lot of run stuff and QB run and um, a lot of power and stuff like that and outside zone. And we actually when he went down, we switched to more of a spread offense and air raid offense that because we had a guy who could really go out there and throw it, and that was the style of quarterback he was. And so we made the changes with that. We were in 11 personnel more, and I was playing more out wide, and I was more involved in the pass game because of that. Um, and so it's taken a lot of turns. I've been here for 4 years, and there's just so many different aspects to every season. I would say here at Northern Colorado, it's been going into the year heavy blocking, heavy run game, um, you know, and then kind of the pass game opening up later in the season and stuff when we realized that we have to adjust and getting more opportunities spread out wide and stuff. So
Yeah, a lot of the opportunities. I mean, I guess it all started with your quarterback who was mobile, and then the injuries kind of affected it. But then it got you more opportunities to be getting the ball a little more than usual, right?
yeah, and I was ready for that. I was ready for that switch because I put a lot of time into my passing game, my routes, and my hands and my stuff, and it was awesome that that opportunity was able to come about. That transition in our offense and getting to make plays like that because we're obviously very appreciated in the run game. The tight ends at UNC were the building blocks and we're the focal point of that run game. I would say so. I was used to both and I could do both, and that's another thing that I think is enticing for any scout or any team that looks at me.
Yeah, I think they value that the most. Like, especially a team like San Francisco or a team like the Rams or the Chargers in general. I mean,
I use all
they,
three of the tight ends, the Rams, and even
yeah,
the
especially with the
Niners. Too,
personnels.
yeah.
Yeah. But what NFL teams have you met with since you said there's some teams intrigued by you?
Yeah, so at the College Gridiron Showcase, I met with New Orleans Saints, which was awesome. I've had some interest and filled out some questionnaires and stuff, and from a few other teams as well. Um, the Colts, Chiefs, the Cowboys, the Broncos, Seahawks.
What about the 49ers? No.
Not 49ers, not yet, no.
Low key, low key.
But yeah, a bunch of teams rolled through during the season, and that was really after that South Dakota game that I had, and a bunch of teams called in asking about me, and when came here to the facility and watched us practice and stuff, and talked to my pro liaison about me and stuff like that. So, I would say that game really put me on the map.
Yeah, always that one tape that gets you over the map sometimes. I mean, all it takes is one good game.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, I kind of see a little bit of similarities of your game, kind of like a little bit like Jake Tongue's, because he wasn't quite much
Yeah,
on the field until last year.
100%. Yeah, he's someone I could really watch too. I think he's a big tight end. He obviously was in a big blocking role and kind of had to adopt that just because he's behind George Kittle, one of the best tight end in the league. So when they're in 12 personnel, he's always in, and actually got a lot of opportunities this year because of Kittle's injuries and stuff like that, and showed what he could do in the passing game as well. So I would also say, yeah, he's a good comparison like that.
Yeah, because of the way how you described it, like you weren't given much of the opportunities. You were mostly a blocker, or you only got a chance to play when the injuries were in the play or something.
Right. Yeah. Early in my career, definitely. So that leads to a lot. That leads to just getting that opportunity. Those few opportunities of game film, and that kind of just spirals and it opens up new doors. So I think that's what kind of happened with Tongus this year.
Yeah,
Honestly, yeah.
it's kind of a learning experience for all these players. But so what do you take away from your college career to get ready for the next level? Like, from your JUCO experience and your Northern Colorado experience, what would you take for that for your next level?
Yeah, man, I would take a ton from it, and just so much growth as a person, and you know, just such a better feel for the game, and honestly, just life and how things work. Compared to when I was who I was as a 19-year-old, and who I am now is just it's night and day difference, and being able to take those traits and carry them into the next level, and that would be something that's really important for me, just to take those things I've worked so long and use those as building blocks to continue to grow, because I really think it's all about building the foundation first, and that's what happened. That was what the JUCO days were for, and that's what UNC was here for. So adopting that underdog route and then just building off of it.
Well, it's molded you to be who you are today. So all credit to that. I mean, you had to do the hard work and you had to go from over there. So the journey has just begun, like they say. So does the moment feel surreal or business as usual to you, man?
Man, it's that's a good question. That's because when you look back 3 years ago, it's like you can't even. No, you go back 4 or 5 years ago, and you couldn't even fathom the concept of playing D1 ball, and then you go fast forward, and you're at a place in your career where you're like, I couldn't even fathom thinking about getting on the field at the D1 level. And then it's like, oh, making plays at the D1 level, scoring touchdowns. It's like, it kind of just, it happens the way it's supposed to, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of growth. So it's not very surprising to me. And it's not like I expected or feel entitled to it, but not at all. But it's more so like, this is just a part of the path, and this is where it took me. And the biggest part is like, not giving all the credit to myself, understanding that I've gotten so much help throughout this journey, and such a push, from God and from my family and from people who really support me. Such a push, so much help, and it puts them in a different perspective. Just that this is a group effort, and it's not just me, and so much things had to come together to make the whole picture a reality. So it's not very surprising. It's definitely surreal, but it's not very surprising to me.
Well, it's all about the hard work, like they say. But what's an area of weakness that you need to improve on the next level?
An area that I'm constantly trying to get better in is, I would say, my mobility, and just being able to, you know, get leverage on people like that. It helps with leverage when you're more mobile in the ankles and in the hips and stuff. And I've gotten so much better with that stuff. My mobility from this year to last year, night and day difference. It allowed me to play at a little bit of a lesser body weight, which is good because I could get more leverage through angles as opposed to just moving people with straight mass. And I feel leaner out there, and I feel more flexible. I can move my body in better ways, and I think it really showed this year in areas. And I think just the way I'm moving now and the way I feel now with multiple routines throughout the day, every day. And then that's the thing where it's all about consistency with that mobility, and you got to do it every day, no matter if you see results in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Just trusting it and believing it, and then it's taken me really far. So that's one area that I'm continuing to work at, and then I'm continuing to get better.
For sure, man. Okay, a couple last questions here. How do you prepare for your opponents, and what's your pregame routine for game day?
Hmm. How do you prepare? I think a lot of preparation comes from actually doing the stuff, and getting the looks, and seeing all the different looks. So I would say honestly, practice is the most important thing. Obviously, watching tape is very important. Understanding what the defense is going to throw at you, or just what you could expect. But at the end of the day, it's being a football player and being able to react and adjust and adapt. Because as we're making changes, they're making changes also. So I really think live, practice reps, real reps, and seeing different looks and stuff like that is something that really helps me. And also just getting a good understanding of personnel, through tape and stuff like that, and what to expect when you're watching. And more so on the physical attributes and like their explosiveness and stuff like that, really dialing in on personnel. I think that helps me a lot to prepare, and just knowing every play and every concept like the back of your hand. And that comes with being a tight end. Kind of, you got to know the run game. You got to know the passing game too. So, and then as far as my pregame routine, I yeah, so kind of just you know very focused, obviously, on game day, waking up, and even the nights before and stuff, and cut out distractions, limit distractions as much as possible throughout the whole season, honestly. But pregame, go out, get yourself loose, get yourself warm, as in terms of your hips, and especially for me, mobility is very important for me. So I got to feel loose, extra loose. So I go out there for an early warm up and get my body completely loose, and then I get some catches with the quarterback and go back in, and then ready to go. Not really a rah guy who's gonna be screaming and doing all that stuff, but more of a composed approach and focused approach like that. Not as much of a I'm gonna rip someone's head off, but just like more composure and you know
Okay.
focus.
So outside of football, who are you as a person?
As a person, I'd say as a person, I would say a lot of my football career shows what kind of person that I try to be, and then that I am. I would say um, my faith is very important to me. My faith in Jesus Christ. That's something that's at the absolute forefront of my life, and continuing to grow in that aspect and making that the top priority as always, and just trying to be a better person in terms of helping people and giving back. And that's something I really find joy in and have found so much more joy in recently. Just trying to understand what all of this is for, and with prayer and just taking it all in and understanding it all. And a lot of it's to put yourself in the position to be able to give back to as many people as you could, and help those who've helped you, and even help those who have never helped you or never talked to you. Just be living proof of a loving God. And that's something that is very important to me. I'd say the most important thing to me outside of football.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, man. Like you seem like a down to earth kind of guy. One last question: why should people go to why should the future athletes go to Northern Colorado, man? You gotta convince me to go there, or somebody like one of those featured
Yeah,
athletes.
man. Yeah, so I've actually, my position coach has had me talk to a bunch of recruits, while they're coming in, introduces them to me and stuff. And I say the same thing every time about UNC, and that, UNC is a place where if you put in the work and you buy into Coach Lamb's program and his what he wants and his vision for you and the team, um, it will pay off, and it will show, and you will get your opportunities, and it's fair. And Coach Lamb holds his word with integrity, and he doesn't cheat people, and he's true to it, and his philosophy, and being consistent, showing up every day, and remodeling your personal life, and doing all this stuff, and start living right, start lifting right, start doing all the little things right, and then strive to be a better man and not just a better player. And it'll lead you really far on the football field. And be unselfish and put the team first, and work as hard as you possibly could, and really dedicate yourself to this game. And this is, you get one shot at it, and you don't want any regrets. You don't want to look back and say, what if I just went a little harder? What if I just stop? What if I just put down the booze, or stop smoking the weed? And what if I just dedicated myself to it, man? And you don't want to be left with those regrets. And Coach Lamb just embodies the self-sacrifice that you have to do to get what you want in this game and in life. So that's why I would definitely go here.
Oh yeah, for sure, man, and definitely appreciate your time, bro. I know the journey is so well worth the process for what you did, man. But whatever that journey is, man, definitely rooting for you, man. But if it comes down to the Bay, maybe another round two would be nice to come around. But
Yes, sir.
for yeah, yeah, but for those people, man, tell them who you are again and tell them what you're currently doing.
Man, what I'm doing right now is I'm training for my pro day, and it's been so awesome, throughout the past couple months. And I'm doing it here at UNC, and it started out with just me, and now we have a group of about 4 or 5 guys who I've met through my agent, and my agent referred them to me and put us in contact. And so I'm working out with one of my other guys from UNC, who's also training for pro day. He's dialed in as well, and we kind of built a little squad, and I know some people from that I've met from the showcase and stuff, from the College Year Round Showcase, and we're all in contact about how to go about this thing and how to approach it. And we're putting our heads down, and we're really submitting to it and working hard for it. So it's been great. It's been great.
Oh yeah, for sure. For everybody else, man, go check out Charlie Garrison, man, Northern Colorado tight end, man. This guy's got a lot of untapped potential. He's barely scratching the surface, man. So definitely go check him out. And for everybody else, man, thank y'all for tuning in.